Another day, another price hike for electronics. On Friday, it was Nintendo's turn to announce price hikes. They're going to be raising the price of the Switch 2 console in Canada by $50 as of September 1st. It's not just Nintendo, it's all the other big names in electronics and computers and laptops and cell phones who of late have been announcing more and more price hikes. What's going on here? Let's go to someone who truly knows the industry. Marc Saltzman is the host of the Tech It Out podcast and Tech Talk Saturdays, which you hear at 2 p.m. right here on CJAD. Marc, welcome back to the program. Been a while.
Yes, it has been. Thanks, Elias. Thanks for having me on the program. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
Good to chat with you.
So listen, Nintendo the latest, but boy, it just seems like everywhere you look, there are price hikes. What's happening right now? Why are there so many price hikes in electronics?
AI.
Is it
A
AI?
two-letter answer. Yeah, so it's because of this boom in generative AI platforms from several companies. They're scooping up all of the RAM or system memory and storage, both of which are key components in the things that we buy, like laptops or video game consoles.
Okay, so we got to go down this chain here because your answer is AI, but it's because of all these chips and memory that AI wants. And these other electronics manufacturers are getting squeezed by it.
That's right. So it's because of AI that data centers are scooping up nearly 70% of the world's storage and memory.
Wow.
That's a lot, right? So we're talking more than 2/3 of the storage that's available are being scooped up by the likes of Microsoft and OpenAI and Google and XAI or Grok and Apple and NVIDIA and all these other companies that produce or are part of the ecosystem of AI are scooping up the RAM, which is required in laptops and gaming systems. And so as a result, it is pushing up pricing a lot. Now, that $50 example you gave off the top for the Nintendo Switch 2, that's not so bad, a $50 delta. Yeah, I guess in a tougher economy like we're facing this year, it isn't great. But for other products, like a $900 PC last year is almost $1,300 today. Like that's a huge jump. And there are other issues, by the way. It's not just AI, but also tariff issues and other logistics problems like transportation costs, fuel, right, because of the war in the Middle East and the tolling of the strait and some other related issues. But it's mostly these AI data centers that are scooping up RAM. And so it's really, we're feeling the pinch, right? And again, it's almost like, a perfect storm. It's also the time 5 years after we renewed our mortgage for many Canadians that, we got a great rate back during the pandemic. So now we're facing higher mortgage costs. We're facing still food inflation, and restaurants are getting insane to eat out. It's all happening. It's the worst possible time. So you really have to ask yourself, do I need to buy a new laptop, or can I eke out another year with what I've got? And there are other solutions that I could recommend as well.
And the other thing on this, I wonder if you think, Marc, that this is exposing the poorly run companies from the well-run companies, because it doesn't seem like it's affecting everyone in the same way. It seems like some of the companies that were better able to predict are faring better on the price hikes. Do you think there's something there?
Yeah, I do, Elias. I think that's a fair point. Companies like Apple started to, whether they realized this was going to happen or not, they started to make a lot of their own components, their own silicon, for example. They left companies like Intel in order to create their own processors, the M series. At the same time, other laptop companies, just to stick with computers as an example, they started to welcome cell phone enabled chips that were typically in a mobile device for laptops. So Qualcomm benefited from that. The benefit for consumers who needed to buy a laptop is that the prices were a lot lower. And then there was this sort of funny ancillary benefit, which much longer battery life. They sip rather than gulp electricity. So no, you don't want to game on a laptop that has a Qualcomm chip meant for a cell phone. Similarly, the new Apple MacBook Neo computer for under $800 or under $680 if you're a student also has an iPhone chip in it. You're not going to want to play games on it, but it's good for most things that we need to do it on, like email and social media and word processing, even some AI, which is in the cloud. You go to a website like, Google Gemini or OpenAI, you can do a lot of that heavy lifting is not on your computer itself. And so, yes, some computer companies seem to have maybe inadvertently predicted what was going to happen. They took more control over the component side. And frankly, I know Tim Cook's going to step down in September, but that's his strength. He's a supply chain expert. He's an operations guy. He's less of a visionary and more of a components. He knows, what to buy, when, from whom, and how many. And so I think Apple is really positioned to benefit from this. That Neo, by the way, that I'm not a MacBook guy. I'm a Windows guy, to be honest with you. But for under $800, this is a stellar laptop with a very bright screen, a 16-hour battery. It syncs with your iPhone, and you can actually do calls and read text on your iPhone on the MacBook Neo itself when it's nearby. Fun colors like citrus and pink, and so I think they've got a huge hit on their hands, especially with students.
And Mark, what you bring up here about Apple, I read a story about how Apple went into a supplier meeting. You're talking about Tim Cook and how he's excelled. They go into a supplier meeting with Samsung. Samsung provides a heck of a lot of components for Apple products, especially that DRAM, those memory chips. And Samsung hits them with what their starting point in the negotiation. We want a 50% increase per unit. Apple agreed immediately. And it's because they knew what was coming. They knew, it's going to get much worse than 50%. Let's take it. And that just says a lot of what's happening.
Good point. Lesser two evils. Yeah.
And I wonder if part of the increase here is coming from certain models going away. Like because they're no longer profitable. Well, let's say the entry models are being replaced by the mid-tier models, and it's not a quote-unquote price hike, but if you have less options on the low end, you're going to be spending more. I wonder if that's happening as well.
Yeah, there's a bit of that as well. I mean, the good news with laptops is that there's something for everyone. If you're a gamer with a healthy budget, you're not going to blink at a $2,000 computer, whether it be a laptop or a desktop, which is modular. You can swap out graphic cards, and you can add on or replace as needed. But then there's also the sub $400 Chromebooks. Again, you have to know what you need to use it for. You don't want to have buyer's remorse. But in this economy, I think some are hedging bets. I don't know if they're sunsetting some older things that people don't want. I mean, I think there's a demand for entry level, mid-range, and high-end computers, depending on your needs and budget. So I think the companies that are succeeding are they were able to read the tea leaves, and they're just servicing their customer base. And for Apple, they were once synonymous with premium. A MacBook Air starts at $1,500, and the MacBook Pro starts at $2,399. Starts at, and so for them to do this, MacBook Neo is brilliant. They've also offered, in fairness, a less expensive Apple Watch SE and an iPhone SE, trying to be all things to all people. That wasn't the way Apple used to roll. They were always premium. True. But it's good for them, and no doubt they're going to see lots of sales in all of these categories.
Mark, listen, got to leave it there. I'll direct all those listeners to tune in Saturdays at 2 for your show, Tech Talk, right here on CJAD. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. We're coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them. It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Everybody